Despite all the technical difficulties, I hope the viewers don't have a problem finding us, given that
Yeah,
the link that was given out is not the link we're on. So,
yeah.
yeah, normally I post just check out the channel, and press live. Normally I'll put those instructions on it, but this time I said, oh, I'll just put the link. I feel like I jinx it every time I do that. So I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to do what I've been doing, which is just posting
Yeah.
the channel. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, anyways, well, welcome
Mhm.
everybody. We're just, waiting
So
a
the
few.
notification popped up saying that you're live.
Yeah. I think there is still like a lag. I feel like your
Mhm.
screen is like fuzzy. Is mine's clear?
Yours is clear.
Okay. Do you see your screen kind of fuzzy? It's like digitized or whatnot.
No.
Okay. Well, Trouble said they hear
Mm,
us
let
hears us
me.
loud and clear, so that's good. All right, show must go on then. Thanks for the check, for the sound check. Well, anyways,
Mhm.
welcome everybody. Welcome to Shoot the Shish. We're gonna do a nice little overview today of an interesting topic when it comes to kids with firearms, which is something that's dear heart for
Mhm.
both myself and Monique. So that's why I wanted her to join today in this conversation because both of us being licensed firearm instructors, we're also both parents of children. And given the perspective of being a mom and an instructor, I think is very valuable for this conversation. So, uh, Mo, do you want to maybe try to like refresh your screen and see if that would help? We might lose you for a second, but you should be able to join back in. Let me see if that will fix that problem. So we'll give a couple of seconds for that. I know you guys, we were having a little technical difficulties before we were even joining. So I'm like, whew, that was scary. I was like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this tonight. YouTube wasn't trying to let me in. So, and that really kind of sucked, but we figured it out. It worked. We're here. So it's just a matter of getting her back in here to see how that works. Let me see if I can kick her out and then maybe she could join back in a second. So thanks, Mike, for joining. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate you checking us out again here. We're gonna have an interesting conversation. Are you a parent, Mike? Do you have kids of your own? Just curious. Yeah, things are well now that the computer that your screen looks very clear now. At first, it was looking kind of glitchy for me.
All right. Mm, pause
Okay,
this up a
three
little.
voices. Okay, so you coming in here with some knowledge as well. You're gonna be able to help us out. So, as always, I'd like to get some input from you guys too. So, I really appreciate your input as a parent to see what your point of view is. So, we have basically two case studies that we're going to go over today while Mo is kind of working out things. It looks like it's getting a little bit better now. All right, Mo, can you say something?
Something.
Oh, okay. That something worked. I think we're on the same accord now. All right. So when it comes to this conversation, it's really before I do that, I do want to introduce us properly for any of people who are just joining, who's never been here before. This channel is dedicated to the community, making sure we have these community discussions every Friday to help you guys be aware of the things that's happening in the firearm community and stay up to date and make sure you guys, keep your tools together, stay sharp because firearms are no joke. We got to make sure we know all this knowledge, all this information to be able to keep ourselves and our family safe. So that's always the goal, and that's what we're doing here today. The topic that we're going to have today, first of all, I'm Mrs. Trouble, and I have Miss Monique with us here today. Mo, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit so they'll know a little bit about your background here.
I'm Monique. I am the owner of Lioness Defense Firearms Training. Real quick, dirty down background. Retired from the Marine Corps last year after 20 years. I named my business after my time with the Lioness team when we first stood up the female engagement teams back in Iraq. I have a beautiful family, wife, 4 kids, and a dog. um, and I currently work with the U.S. Marshals as a training specialist.
Okay, so thanks for that little background there. So we kind of have a good understanding of your background, the fact that you are in this field, you have quite an extensive history with firearm use, but then you also have children of your own, so that you and your wife can actually navigate how to keep your kids safe as well as keep yours safe. And also, just the fact of myself as well, my husband and I are always trying to navigate different things to make sure our kids are safe as well. You want to show? Yep. Yep, definitely similarly slow. So yes, definitely. Yes, you guys, she's the shit for sure. She's gonna be modest, but I can say it for her. She girl know her stuff. So yes, Mike, you do need an autograph.
Don't card. I like it, Mike.
Yeah, you should definitely take some cards and like just like maybe, it's like some small paper, I guess, and just kind of shoot like a shape in it, and that's your signature. That'd be cool. So yes, she is a lioness, definitely. So that's why she's a great pick for this. She's helping me out, and I'm helping her out. We work together quite a bit for different trainings and things like that. So definitely, I really appreciate all the insight. So, when it comes to our children, how do we best protect our children? So, I was really intrigued by these two stories that I came across recently in the media. One was about a little lady, little girl who's 6 years old. And her mom and her is at a Walmart, and the mom bought a television, and a person said that she stole it, and she was saying, I didn't steal it. She actually was looking for her receipt. She had lost the receipt just before she was able to leave out the store, but she was able to flag down the person who helped her with the sale at the register, and they confirmed to the manager that she bought the TV just now, but she just couldn't find her receipt. But the manager just kept insisting that she was stealing the TV, called the police out to the scene. The lady's now at the car with her 6 year old. Her 6 year old was strapped in the back seat in her car seat. And she flagged down a stranger guy to help her put the TV inside the car because it was a big TV. And while she's doing that, the police comes on the scene. A female cop who was really aggressive, has a record of being aggressive with people, and she already had her hands on the gun. And then next thing you know, she's wrestling the mom, and she's pinning the mom and things like that. So things escalate to that degree. And now you have this 6 year old went into the glove department, got the gun that she knew her mom had there. Her mom had actually taught her how to be safe and how to use the gun. And the little girl shot the police officer in the head. So, all charges were actually dropped. Um, I thought that was a good thing from the judge to do that, considering the mom actually was unconscious when the police officer actually was shot. So that's how much of a tussle they were going through at that moment. So I thought this was a really great discussion to have about the fact that this little girl knew how to handle the gun. She was 6 years old and she knew how to handle the gun. And she was accurate. So what's your thoughts about this story, Mo? Just, your background, your mom, what is your thoughts about this story? Hmm.
Kids only have a certain level of discernment and ability to make judgment calls based off of what we've taught as children, right? So she's
Right,
clearly taught her child, like, if you see something that is a danger or inherently dangerous to me or yourself, that is an option for you, right?
right,
But again, she's six. She
right.
only has a certain level of discernment. So she did exactly what my mom is in trouble. I need to do something about it. What any 6-year-old would do, you know?
Mhm.
Would a 13-year-old have done the same thing? Maybe not,
Right.
right? So there would have been no legit logical justification for there to be charges brought against her for that. You know,
Mhm.
kids will do what you teach them, and as your kids grow older, you have to talk to them and provide with them with the ability to make decisions based off of the information that they gather, which is what she did, right? There was really no getting around that based on what the mom had taught her. And mom is well within her right to teach her daughter, who clearly had a certain level of discernment to understand her mother was in danger and that she needed
Right.
to do something about it. Okay. So the little girl did exactly what she was supposed to do in that manner. Because if I'm in danger and my kids know I'm in danger and my life is, as they're watching, they can see that
Mhm.
my life is in danger, they're going to probably do the same thing. Now, they have more discernment at 16 and 15 to not shoot a cop. She
Right.
doesn't know it's different, right? She's like, this person was hurting my mom. I'm going to do what I have to do.
Mhm.
It's important to teach your children at any age, starting from the basics, which is you see a gun, stop, don't touch it, go find an adult, right?
Right.
Um, then you also have to progress into gun handling, guns marksmanship, and how you react to certain things. At her age, she was very intelligent young
Right.
girl. You know, she put
Yeah.
two and two together. You know, but then there's also other parts of that equation that her brain is not going to register, which is this is a police officer. You
Mhm.
know, that doesn't make what the police officer did right either. So
Right.
this there's a lot of gray areas in this situation. But I am a strong proponent of teaching children how to use a firearm if that's what you want to do as a parent. At a minimum, take away the new shiny toy.
Mhm.
Make sure they understand what you can and cannot do with a firearm. This is inherently dangerous tool. You are not to touch it. Make sure you store the firearms. Do all of those things. You know, she had it available to her child to access. Anybody could have accessed that gun. Let's talk about access to guns too as
Yeah.
well. That's that's something that might have went wrong, not in her favor. That
Mhm.
her 6-year-old was able to access that gun that quickly,
Mhm.
right? And those are things that we have to talk about too. So access to firearms, how old is too, how young is too young to
Right.
teach a child about firearms? Is your child mature enough to make certain kind of decisions in certain situations?
Mhm.
You know, people develop differently. People develop brain wise at a different pace than other folks. So these are all things that you have to take into consideration, and these are discussions that you have to have, which between you, yourself, your spouse, significant other, whoever else is in your house, and the children that you are uh, raising or
Yeah.
have some kind of contact with. You know, it's
Yeah,
a
that
lot.
was, I mean, definitely a lot of my same sentiments when I thought about this. I mean, the fact that the officer lost her life, that was very unfortunate. Regardless of this officer being someone that has a history of being aggressive, I was thinking, wow, I mean, she has loved ones, somebody's missing her, and that's unfortunate. I also thought about the little girl's, mental health as a result of this. What's going to happen with her mentally? She's old enough to remember this. I mean, being young like that, she's still 6 years old. A lot of things we all remember at 6, especially things that's traumatic like that. So she's going to remember this. And I wonder how she's going to internalize this, and, how is this going to affect her? That's one of the things that I worried about with her.
Yeah,
So,
it's gonna
yeah.
be a long for her. It's gonna be a long road for her. She's young. You know, children are resilient. We'll say
Hmm.
I will say that. Her mother's going to have to make a concerted effort to ensure that she is in counseling and that she understands that the situation dictated her actions and that wasn't her fault. That's something that she couldn't control. What was going
Right.
on with her mom, and she responded in a way that she was taught. Right. So there's going to be an onus that she takes on herself, saying that that was my fault, I did something wrong, and that is going to be up to her mom, because she's a baby. It's going to be up to her
Mm-hmm.
mom, her parents, her family, to ensure that she gets the appropriate support and resources for her to understand and essentially come to terms with the actions that she took at 6 years old.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot for
Yeah.
a minor of that age. You
Yeah.
know,
It's a lot for anyone.
it is. It's a lot
Yeah.
for taking a life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
as an adult, adults can't take a life and be okay with it. And then
Exactly. Yeah.
six.
And I'm
Um,
thinking about that also on the flip side of that, her being 6, she may not have internalized how great that was, you know. Maybe later on down the line she may, and it's fact that it was a police officer as well. So I know here in the comment though, I do want to go to that real quick. Global Glock 45, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you being here. And your question was, you meant to say, what is the legal age, I guess, for a kid to touch a gun, basically? Um, so yeah, that this particular case, the judge did drop all charges. So the mom and the child, they don't have any legal issues as a result of this situation because it was blatant self-defense. The mom actually, like I said, was unconscious when the little girl actually shot the police. That's how much the mom and the police officer was tussling. Okay. So the little girl probably really thought that the police officer had killed their mom or was trying to at least. So it seems like it was just in self defense use. So the judge did drop the charges. Now, I personally haven't seen anything that is specific as far as ages for a kid to touch a gun or not. Mo, have you seen anything specific besides the fact of it's not being legal for a kid that or a person to be less than 21 to handle or possess a firearm? Have you seen anything else?
it depends. Well, one, it depends on your state, because each state has their own thing. But it's not illegal for a child under the age of 21, 18 to have access. You have to have one. They have to have consent. One, there has to be an adult in their presence, right? If I'm teaching my son to shoot, it is not illegal for me to do that,
Mhm.
technically, at any age. However, comma,
Right.
however, we have to take into consideration the child, the maturity, etc. So you have states where the accessibility to be able to take them to a range and show them how to shoot, there is an age limit. So in North Carolina, an indoor range, I couldn't take them in there unless they were 8 years old or older. So I
Hmm.
took them to an outdoor range where I
Right.
have access to be able to do what I needed to do to teach them how to shoot.
Hmm.
Um, so it really depends on the availability of you to be able to take them, which in most states you can't take a child under a certain age to a range. They have their
Right.
age limits. Um, and you also have to consider the child themselves. You know your kid. Is your kid at the age where they're mature enough to, before you even teach them how to shoot, they know the safety rules. They know how to handle it properly. They know how to unload it, clear it, and do all the safe handling things before you jump into teaching them how to shoot. So
Right.
those are a lot of things prior to that that need to happen.
And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and as far as the specific age, my experience has been like 10 years old in Virginia from the a lot of the ranges in the area. Between 10 and 12 is the different locations that I've been given those numbers. And as long as the parent is present, that they can actually shoot. But as far as Michael is saying, it can go into some form of neglect, the fact that the kid had access to the firearm. Good point, Michael, and that is definitely room for argument right there. So, if anybody knows anything about the law so far, it's a lot of gray areas. And it's all about what we can articulate and prove sometimes, given the situation. Each situation is going to be different, is what I'm trying to say. But in general, your 6 year old should not have access to your firearms in general. Um, Given this circumstance, the judge definitely seemed fit to drop the charges. I don't know the full details to say what was the like what was the exact reasoning, but that was just the final decision. I'm not sure how they came to making that decision. So, James, you were saying, what state was this? I'm trying to verify that now. Mo, do you remember what state that is? I totally forgot.
Not off the top of my head. I would have to look it up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just like can't remember what state that was. I don't know if that was Virginia or not. I don't know why I feel like it's Virginia, but I might be wrong here. Um,
So I'll look it up. You can keep reading the questions.
yeah. And then someone also said, so question you both, what's the youngest you're willing to train? So whatever the range allows, which is usually 10, that's the youngest that I've trained was 10 years old. And apparently Mo has trained at probably around 8 because coming from South Carolina. Five. Five then.
Yeah, I have twin goddaughters. They were 5 at the time when I started teaching them. And also, you have to teach children. You have to know how to teach children, right?
Of
So
course.
I just didn't put a handgun in their hand and say, "Hey, let's go shooting."
Hmm.
It started with a bolt action rifle, a cricket, very small, one round at a time, with whatever they needed as far as stabilizing, sitting down, control of the gun, all the things that facilitate a young child shooting a firearm. Just
Hmm.
don't go out there and put a handgun in your kid's hand and be like, "Here, go shoot this." That's not how that works.
Exactly. No, not how that works.
Did you
So
say your kid white? No, my kids, they're black.
yeah, so I've had some white and black kids, and Hispanic kids, actually that were around that 10 and 12 years old age, and some other races as well. Um, so yeah, a good mixture, I should say. But what I can say that when I do training with children, obviously their parents are present the
Yeah.
complete time. Okay, so that's one. A parent can't sign their kid up and drop them off, and it doesn't matter if their kid is 16 or 17. You're not leaving. You're gonna stay right here. You're gonna see everything that's going on, parent. um, so that's one of those things that happens. But I always have a conversation with the kids to try to kind of feel them out, you
Hmm.
know, ahead of time as much as I can. But then I also talk to them after as well to make sure. So let me back this up. What I'm assessing before is how mature they are. If they don't have a certain level of maturity, then I would suggest to a parent that maybe this should not be the direction that we should go right now
Right.
because I don't know if they have the maturity level to know how to do this thing and know not to get like big headed if they see a gun, or trying to teach someone else and things like that. So those type of conversations does need to happen when teaching another a child that's not your own. And then the other thing that I do with all of my students, children, when I have a conversation with teenagers, is making sure that they're not posting pictures on social media about them shooting. Nothing about it, not referencing to it or anything. And I talk to them about the dangers of that. I also talk to them about if they see a firearm, just because you know how to use it doesn't mean you should be the one handling it. Think about the fingerprints that you're leaving behind, things like that. I try to get them in that headspace because, especially with them being teenagers and things, they can think about what the consequences may be and they can fill in some of those gaps on their own. I don't want to give them all the answers, but I create so many scenarios for them so they can start thinking on their own when it comes to this type of thing.
So I want to address
Hmm.
the comment about why are we teaching 6-year-olds how to shoot. So understand that shooting, there are different reasons to learn how to shoot at any age, whether it's recreational, whether it's for hunting, whether it's because you want to do competition shooting. There are plenty of reasons why people shoot. We have to get out of the mindset that shooting is only for self defense or to go out and do something nefarious with the gun. That's not how that works, right? If a child shows interest in a firearm, already that needs to be addressed. Off
Yep.
the bat. If
Yep.
you're going to have firearms in the house, it needs to be addressed. If you have friends that have firearms in their house, it needs to be addressed. We live in the US. Almost one out of what, 3 homes have firearms in
Yep.
it. Unfortunately, people are not as open as you would like them to be. If your child goes over to their house and they do have firearms,
Mhm.
why take the chance? If they do, and for whatever reason they're neglectful in making sure their firearm is properly stored, that your child is not in the mindset to know, hey, don't touch that. I'm not to touch that, right? My goddaughters, my friend wanted me to teach them, and I did. But I also made sure that they were mature enough to do so,
Mhm.
right? If they weren't mature enough and I didn't feel that it was safe for them to do, because there were steps prior, right? Understanding what the firearm is, knowing the 4 steps of I see it, I don't touch it, I go and tell an adult and make sure they understand that the firearm is there. We go through all of that stuff.
Mhm.
I taught my kids because it is something that I enjoy doing, and I wanted to share that with them. They also enjoy doing it, right?
Yeah.
People
Kids
have
mimic
reasons
what they
for what
see.
they do. People have reasons for what they do. It is not for us to judge. It's not for us to understand or have to understand why other people decide to teach their kids how to shoot. We have to stop comparing, oh, they can shoot, but they can't read. You don't know that.
Yeah.
You don't know that. My
Now,
kids
what
can
I would like to ask Beyondra, if you don't mind sharing with us, were you raised in a city or like a country area, like a rural area? I'm curious to know your personal upbringing as far as that, because that also could dictate your views on firearm ownership. I find that people who are raised in like the country, I think Drew is the one said at 6 years old, his grandfather taught him how to shoot, you know, and so he taught him how to go hunting. Hunting is not something that typically people who are raised in a city are raised doing,
right.
myself included. I was raised in a city too. I see you, a city girl. I was raised in a city as well, and the thought process that only people who were thugs, police officers, military, Secret Service, something like that, only those people had guns. And that was factual for DC at the time. At that time, regular civilians like you and I couldn't own a firearm. So that was factual being grown up in a city like that. So the idea of hunting only came to my mind when I visited family in the South. But even then, I wasn't really interested in it because my notion of what guns were is it was a taboo thing. It was a negative thing in my community. So that's one of those things. That's why I asked. That's the only reason why I asked, because that also dictates your mindset towards what firearm use is for. So, um, so
I
I
mean,
hear you.
everybody has their
Child be a
opinion about
child.
it, which you're
Hmm.
entitled to. You're entitled to have your opinion about it. I feel like if my child wants to shoot, then by all means, I'm going to show my baby how to shoot. That's something that we can share as a family, right?
Yeah.
If you
So
don't,
I have a 6-year old. So I can definitely point on this right now. I personally have a 6-year old currently. And when I tell you, and Monique can actually test to this, that my 6-year old intellect is not of a 6-year old that I remember when I was a kid. So if you're comparing to when you were a 6-year old and what 6-year olds are like today, you got to stop. These kids are definitely a different level. Having a conversation with my 6-year old sometimes feels like talking to a 30-year old. Sometimes. I mean, she may not have the exact vocabulary of a 30-year old, but the caliber and the complication of the conversation, the contents of the conversation is like, wow, I can't believe she thought in that way. So what I'm trying to say is they have certain interests in things and they start to explore the world and have questions and things like that. My 6-year old has learned how to shoot, but not with live guns yet. We use shooting simulator with her. So she has had some experience with those things. And of course, having her walk around with me at the store, we're looking at different guns and we're talking about don't do this and why not do that. Those type of conversations we have. But to each his own. Like Mo said, everybody's household has to decide what makes sense for them in their house. And that's only one of my kids. My other kids didn't touch a gun that early. They were a little older. So it just depends on the child, I say too. Because it could be the same
heavily,
household. Yeah.
heavily dependent on the child, heavily dependent on the child, right?
Hmm.
And taking guns to school, you have to know your child,
Yeah.
and they shouldn't have, and that's the, they should not have access to the gun if you are not with them.
Yeah.
Have a safe that they cannot access,
Mm-hmm.
right? When we talk about, oh, they want to take it to school, I blame the parents. If they didn't have access to it in the house, because some of those shooters, they got it from their home.
Yeah.
Not all of them did, but some of them did.
Yeah.
The point of talking about safe firearm storage is to ensure that you are safely storing your firearm with no access to unauthorized persons. And unauthorized persons are children, felons, people who have domestic violence misdemeanors or felonies,
Mm-hmm.
or someone you didn't give explicit consent to access that firearm.
Yeah.
So we have to take responsibility for our actions as gun owners too as well. Because if your child accessed it, that means they had access to it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would like to, piggyback on what you're saying there because, Deandra, you have a really good valid point. A 6-year-old being a 6-year-old, let them stay a kid. What I would like to make sure that you have an understanding about, and I think Judy kind of put into concept two of these 2 points I want to say here. And this is not to pick on you, Deandra. I just want to let you know that I and Monique both, I'm sure I speak for her when I say we respect your views. We're just giving more clarification on another perspective, and we appreciate your feedback, as a matter of fact, because we're not going to all agree about everything, and that's okay. So we don't want to dictate what you do in your own home. We want you to do what works in your home. I say that all at the same time while I want you to know that these kids have an interest in something, and a lot of them play video games. Almost all the video games these kids are playing is shooting games. So can you imagine their curiosity if they see a gun in person? The fact that, oh, I want to see if this gun actually works like the gun I shoot on Fortnite. I want to see if this actually works like that gun. So I want to go ahead and touch it. So my theory about exposing children to firearms as early as you feel like you need to, probably around that 6 years old age, is to take the curiosity away. Think about how intrigued they would be if they've never seen a real gun, but they only seen guns on video games and they only seen it on TV. But then they go over their friend house and somebody neglectfully left the gun out and they saw it. And they were like, oh snap, this is the gun I seen on Fortnite. Oh, I know what to do with this. How exciting that would be for them. But if they were a kid that was raised in a house where they see their parents cleaning a gun often, or maybe their parents actually let them handle it safely and show them how to do things safely with it, they're probably going to be not as curious because it's not new for them. So for me, it's a matter of taking that curiosity away from that child and giving them the responsibility of respecting the gun. And to Judy's point, where she was explaining that kids used to play cops and robbers back in the day, okay, that's a whole nother generation that didn't go around shooting up people. They respected the gun because they understood that their family was teaching them the respect of a firearm, that guns are unforgiving. And so they had that in their mind, and the firearm use, what was the firearm used for? So those are things that, really stand out for me and gravitate for me when talking about children with firearms, thinking about those perspectives.
So
Let's see.
and also with these, what we have now, we had what, Tomb Raider was probably the worst one I remember, right? Tomb
Yeah.
Raider, kids see that and they're like, oh, lives re up. Not
Mhm.
reality. TV and video games is not reality. They cannot learn fundamental safety of firearms from video games and TV. And this is what they have access to, right?
Mhm.
So you have to, just for the safety, the basic safety of your child, at least tell them the steps of how to react if they actually see a gun. You
Right.
know what I mean? Thinking that they're never going to come across one, and they might not, but do not be naive enough to think that it's never ever going to happen at their age, because we fall into this pit. Oh yeah, it happened to that person. It'll never happen to me. A lot of people think that.
Yep. Yep.
Know
You're
your
exactly
kid
right.
and take away that shiny new toy, because that's what it is. It is a toy. At that age, at 6, 7 years old, and they've never seen it, but they've seen it in the video games, like Sheena said, ooh, yay. They know, oh my gosh, that's a gun. I can't touch that. Let me run away and tell an adult. Have a whole song dedicated to it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Eddie Eagle program. You do
Yes.
what's best. You're gonna do what's best for you. Like Judy said, you do what's best for your mindset. Absolutely, and that's
Hmm.
what Sheena said. We respect your decision whether you want to teach your child about gun safety, etc. That is completely on you. That is your decision. Whatever is good for you and your household and your family.
Hmm.
However, I will not judge another family for how they choose to handle the way they address firearms with their children.
Hmm. I hear you. I mean, and that's one of those things, like you said, to each his own. I mean, honestly, I can't stress it enough. Meta, thank you so much for joining Meta 101. I see you join. And thanks, Judy, for joining as well. Um, he made a valid point when Meta said that, the key is to know your child.
Yeah.
Really do have a good understanding of your child. I had a student a couple of months back who had signed up for her and her brother, and her brother being a minor, but she was the custody. What do you call it? The person she had custody of.
Custodial parent.
I'm sorry.
The custodial parent.
Yeah, there you go. She was the custodial parent of her brother, and he was 15, I believe. And we did a class, like a class first, and then we were going to do the range time. And this is not the first time that either of them had been around guns. They actually were raised with a little bit of firearm knowledge. But one of the things I really appreciated that she did was she seen how fidgety he was during that class time. And like he was listening, but then he wasn't listening because he thought he knew it all. But then when it came down time to the range day, I was a little bit curious about that. I wanted to fill him out a little bit more in person. But she showed up without him. She said, nope, I heard what you said during the class. I don't think he's ready.
Yeah.
I told him, and we had a big argument about. She said they had a big argument about it, and she made the decision that no, he couldn't come to the range with me today. So she bought someone else because she was like, I'm not gonna waste my money either. But she made that choice, and that was one of those things I really, appreciated for her to make that stand with him to say, hey, you got to mature a little bit more before I'm gonna put these guns in your hand. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So let's see, Judy, I'm just going back to the comments here. Now that my son is an adult, I'm okay with having a firearm in the home. That makes sense. That makes sense. I had some similar reservations about firearm carry, concealed carry when I was first beginning to carry and my kids were small. I was like, how am I gonna have a baby on my hip and a gun on my hip at the same time? Like, how is that gonna work? Like, I don't really know how that works. So at first, I wouldn't conceal carry for that reason because I really just didn't get that concept. Having a baby on my hip and a gun on my hip, that I just don't know how that's gonna work. So eventually I navigated through and it was okay. Gun on this side, baby on that side, we good to go.
They're real good with that left arm.
That's right. That's right. So Meta said, do we teach at schools? I definitely do. Definitely do. And I have taught at schools. Schools are a bit tricky though. They really are a bit tricky. I've found that charter schools or private schools are a little easier to try to navigate being into those places and talk about things like this. But parents are very hesitant about having a gun conversation with their kid. So the schools tend to say no. So, but I've found some other ways of being able to educate by maybe speaking to the staff, not so much the students, like I would like to speak to the students. Yeah. Let's see. Instructors that got shot by youth teacher. Are you having a question or are you telling us that something happened? Because I'm not sure about that story if something happened there, Beyond. So I'll wait for her to explain that a little bit more. But I will like to tell you guys the other story that I saw that made me have this conversation was there was a home intruder recent. And this one was in Kentucky. I do remember that much. That it was a 14-year old. At first, they didn't know how old the guy was. So if you guys are looking at any articles, they may not say age of the child. They'll just say a minor or somebody under 18, but they did this finally say that they were 14 years old. Was home by themselves in the middle of the night. People broke into the home. Two guys, two grown men, broke into the home with the intent of breaking into or stealing firearms that the father owned. So they were trying to break into the gun safe, and somehow or another, the 14-year-old was able to get a gun and actually shoot the two guys. One guy was dead on the scene, and the other guy was pronounced dead at the hospital. Um, and you know that, and he was in the 14-year-old was able to shoot and then leave the house and jump out the window and get help or whatever. But this situation, very scary situation. He's home alone by himself, and here it is, two grown men have broke into his house. Like, that's, realistically, I can't even imagine what was really going through his head, like,
Right.
especially if he would not have known how to handle a firearm. Here you got guys trying to break in and steal guns. They had guns in their hand when he shot him, actually.
Oh wow.
So it's like, if his parents didn't teach him about firearm use and things like that, what would he have done? You
Right.
know? So it just kind of made me feel, kind of a certain way about that story there. And of course, the mental situation that happens after the fact for this 14-year-old. How does he navigate through life knowing that he's actually taken two lives, Although these guys were trying to do something to harm his family in a sense, or their property rather. So, and this one's a new story, so I don't know what the outcome is or anything. They're still investigating this. We don't have a
Right.
lot of information on this story yet.
But it's not
Uh,
it's not common. I've heard, because I follow all the gun platforms and stuff like that, and
mhm.
it's not uncommon
No, it's not.
people have broken into houses and kids have had to defend their home. It is not
Hmm.
something that's super uncommon. It happens more often than you think.
Yeah. These are stories that just don't make the big time media a lot of times. And I think it was, I can't remember what YouTuber said it the best to me, was something along the lines of, we'll hear in the media all these certain things about firearms, but we won't hear too many stories about people defending themselves by the use of firearms. So, and that includes children defending themselves with the use of firearms. We'll hear somebody unaliving somebody with a firearm, but not too many times it's going to be about somebody defending themselves with the use of a firearm. So, Deandra said a child shot an instructor by mistake. The child was not listening. Oh wow! It shouldn't have been any ammo in the class. That's the first thing. I mean, yeah.
So if so, I don't know when that happened. I remember hearing about that story. I would say a lot of things could have went wrong during that training, right?
Hmm.
Not to say that the child shouldn't there shouldn't have been ammo in the class because if they were shooting, they were probably on the range.
Yeah. Oh, they
That
were in the, oh, they were on the range. Oh, okay,
they
okay,
probably were on the range. Yeah, actually got shot by
okay.
right. So if they were on the range, most likely, there was probably a little bit of lack of oversight.
Hmm.
Positive because then as an instructor, you have to have positive control of that gun. You have to be within a certain distance of who you're training, whether it's an adult or a child, to make sure that you can have quick access and positive control of that gun at a split second.
Hmm.
Because new shooters, child and adult, have tendencies to do things that they are not aware of as just human nature. If someone calls your name, you turn around. If something falls, you go to try to grab it, right? So we just do things on instinct because that's who we are as human beings.
Hmm.
You cannot, as an instructor, you cannot allow for that to happen. You can't allow for that to happen. And that is something that I, myself, as an instructor, am heavy on is safety.
Yeah.
I will talk to you one time. One time. She already knows. She already knows. Like
Same
I'm
here.
not rude about it. Yeah, I'm
Here.
not rude about it. I'm tactful about it. But I tell my students, I'm not leaving here with more holes than I.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Mhm.
It's extremely unfortunate that that instructor lost.
One second, Mo. They said that you're a little bit like spotty. It's breaking up.
Okay,
Um, I wonder. It looks like it's a little better now for some reason. Um, you guys gonna have to let us know if she's better on your end, because
am
her
I better?
yeah, because it seems like it was okay, good. Because it seems like it
Okay,
was getting a little bit spotty and your sound was going a little bit weird at first.
yeah, my battery's draining. It's probably what it is.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I was just saying, you safety is paramount. Is
Yes.
the bottom line. Safety is paramount. You get one as an adult. You get one warning from me. As a kid, possibly two. And if you're not listening, your mom got to take you home or your dad got to take you home. I don't
Hmm.
sacrifice safety of myself or my students for any reason.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the kid wasn't listening, and we said it before. You have to know that child. If that child is not mature enough to be in that class or to be taught, they don't need to be there. And the
Yeah.
instructor.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm gonna say to that, oh, the sound is breaking up again. She's gonna try to rejoin. But basically, when it comes to this, I have actually had a student I can recall training a family in shooting. It was a family of three, I think. I think it was a mom and dad and a kid. I want to say the kid was like 13 years old, and he was just kind of a little bit on the hyper side, and he wasn't really listening. And so I had to tell the mom and the dad, "Hey, look, I think he just needs to be an observer. I don't think he's ready for this." So I think we ended up shooting just maybe a 22 pistol for a moment, and then decided that he's just gonna have to observe for the rest of the way because he's doing too much, basically. So I had to stop that training with him and just focus on the mom and dad. And that's kind of how we rocked it that particular session there. And they understood, and he understood too. He was a little bit bummed out because he was excited about shooting, but the reality is he had to mature a little bit. He wasn't ready. He wasn't listening. And I'm not about sitting there to repeat myself. I actually snatched the gun out of his hand. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're flagging people and things like that, I don't play with that. I'm close enough to taking the gun out your hand real quick. That's kind of how I'm operating. So especially with kids, I'm really close to make sure that if anything, I can take the gun, if anything. But definitely Spidey senses was going off with this young man, and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is the right choice for this young man. So the parents didn't make the choice, I made the choice for them in that case. So someone said, have you ever had to use force on anyone that's not listening? uh Actually, no. um like I said, the most I've had to do was take the gun out someone's hand. And then once I did that, it kind of snapped them into motion. Like, wait, that just happened. How do she do that? Basically. So for me, that's about as much force as I had to use. How about you, Mo?
Yeah, similar. I was with you. You remember. Um,
Yes.
yeah, it was a large group, and we had some I don't know, wax buildup, whatever it was. Uh, but no, there was I'm just making a joke, but they weren't. There were two that were more concerned with taking photos, and
Mhm.
doing other things and focusing on what was being told. So I wound up stopping that whole evolution. And I was like, listen, y'all got one more time and I will shut all of this down.
Right.
And I looked at Sheeta. She was like, listen, you know,
I
it
was
is
like,
what
she
it
has
is.
spoken. She's spoken. I mean, it is what it is. I'm
It
here
is
with
what
her on
it is.
that. Yes.
You know? So again, same thing. I grabbed right there because I was right behind him, you know,
Mhm.
and you can't let people do whatever with a gun in their hand. So yes, I don't, if I have to use a certain amount of force to get you to stop what you're doing, I will do it. But I've never had to like take anyone down. I just had to control their arm swingage.
Mhm.
Essentially.
Yeah. So Big Dad 444, what you were asking, is it allowed to take pictures at the range? This particular range does not allow shooting or
No.
pictures during regular hours, but we had private time. So it was allowed for this particular session because of
Mhm.
that. Yeah. Um, so yeah, and then there are other ranges that will allow you to take pictures and photos or videos, whatnot, but not all of them. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, most ranges are not allowing it, but like
Mhm.
Sheena said, this was after hours and it was a private group, so
Yeah. So while I have you guys still here, it looks like we have quite a bit of viewers right now. If you guys can please go ahead and give us a thumbs up so more people can actually take part in looking at this video. I hope that you guys are appreciating this conversation and getting some things out of it. I really love these community discussions, so I call it community discussions because I love you guys' input. I appreciate it. Bianca giving her personal opinions on things, and Judy,
mhm,
Big Dad 444, Mike, all the comments and the love you guys have put it in the chat box area is very much appreciated because honestly, this world wouldn't be nothing if we were all the same. So,
mhm.
myself and Mo, we're not expecting everyone to agree with everything we're saying here. We're just
Yeah.
expecting to have a great adult conversation that's going to go a long way in your own homes, that's going to help benefit us as a whole, as a people. Because if you guys are getting the knowledge, you're going to actually instill that knowledge in your children, and your children are going to do so forth with their children. So it starts within the home, and that's where we're trying to reach right now.
Mhm.
So after this conversation, if you guys have decided to either not train your children or to train your children, the goal is that you have the knowledge to make that decision
Mhm.
definitively for your home household. So that's really what I want you guys to take away from this. Mo, do you have any final things to kind of input here in closing?
Yeah, you said it, you know. I'm big on education. And again, you know, it's your household. You absolutely do what you feel is best for your household. But please allow your children the basic education of knowing if they come across a firearm, what they are supposed to do, which
Yeah,
is don't touch it, go tell an adult. Okay.
right. Yeah, I would hope. I
No,
would.
not at all. I
Oh
love
no,
no.
definitely.
Mm-mm.
Definitely not offended, Bianca. Thank you. I appreciate
Mhm.
your input. I mean, like I said, we're coming from different areas. We have different
Mhm.
opinions. You have different experiences.
Yeah,
Don't expect to always agree. So, and
no.
I'm okay with that. And that works out well for me to actually talk to someone who has a different opinion in the first place. I
Mhm.
love looking on the other side of the fence to kind of understand someone else's, opinion. Yeah. Yes, I really appreciated you giving that insight, honestly. Love you
Absolutely.
back.
Absolutely. And Judy, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a shameless plug right now. I'm teaching a kids safety 101 in the summer in August. So it's not hands-on. It is a basic Eddie Eagle safety. Again, you see it, run, don't touch it, all that stuff. I'm teaching a basic safety class for kids.
Mm,
Parents must be there from K to fifth. So if you live in the DMV, it is on my page, Lioness Defense. At least if you are interested, give them the basics of learning what to do when they see a firearm.
yeah. I would totally, definitely agree with that. Please sign up for that class, you guys, because I mean, my kids have done training with Mo as well, and I think it was really beneficial for them to be in there, have a different perspective. I mean, I am a firearm instructor. My husband's a firearm instructor, but sometimes it'd be great to have someone else's, words come
Mhm.
and resonate with them because we're parents. They're like, I want to listen to my parents. But if you
Mhm.
get somebody else to do it, then sometimes it gravitates to them a
Yeah.
little bit differently. So that's the reason why we
Mhm.
had our kids to take most class, and they really thoroughly enjoyed it. They really did.
I'm good with kids or whatever, just a little bit.
Yes, you are. So Deandra said, "What happened to the Metaverse youth class? I'm not in the DC area." Oh, yep, I still definitely provide that. Thank you for mentioning that. So that is something that I'm actually rebooting. I wanted to change it up a little bit because we have a couple of things that happen in the Metaverse on our end of Trouble Defense. But if you check out Trouble Defense website, we'll have some links there for you for the class that's available through the Metaverse for kids. It's called our Shield Kids program. And so, yep, it's definitely one of those things where it's dear at heart. I'm actually incorporating my daughters to help with that class now. So we'll get some insight from the kids because I mean, I'm telling you, things have changed a lot. I mean, I'm starting to feel old these days. I don't know about you, but
Listen, we're not old, we are seasoned. Ain't nothing old about me, honey.
one of the things that really got me is looking at some of these videos that's posted and
Mhm.
somebody on one side of the screen and they're talking about something totally different within the other side of the screen is going on. You'll just see somebody doing random hair or doing nails or some DIY project or something while somebody's talking. And I'm talking to my 6-year-old, 16-year-old. I'm like, what is this for? Like this
Right.
is not related to that. And she's like,
Mhm.
oh, because people can't concentrate on one thing. What? So everybody in the world is ADHD now? Like, what is going on?
Maybe, maybe.
So, I mean, things like that, is really good. If we're going to give a kids class, I think having a kids input is going to be helpful.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Agreed.
So,
I
yes,
forgot, yes,
at
I am.
444. That's too funny. So yeah, it's one of those things, man. I'm just like, man, the world is changing so much, and I find myself saying old statements that I've heard the older
Mhm.
people tell me when I was younger. Like yesterday, I told my daughter, she was like, she mentioned something. What did she say? She said, "Oh," she told me and her sister, "Raise your hand." And we was like, she was like, "Then raise them higher." And we was like, "Okay." And she was like, "Raise them higher." She said, "Why didn't you do that the first time?" I said, "That's definitely a lesson that I was taught when I was her age."
Mhm,
And so she was like, the fact that I knew where she was going. I said, "Oh yeah, I
mhm,
knew where you were going because
mhm.
somebody else had taught me that when I was your age." And she
Right.
was like, "Really, Mom? You could have just let me have that one." I said, "No, because ain't nothing new now. Nothing's new. Everything is redone.
Oh, yeah, we recycle everything, everything.
Recycle everything."
Mhm.
And that's one of the things I was telling her that made me feel like I'm getting older because that also is something that was told to me when I was younger. That
Yeah.
nothing new under the sun.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's one of those things where it just like I love helping children though because they're just such bright lights. Like
Yeah,
and they just encourage me so much. And I understand that they are our future. So I really want to pour into them because I want them to grow up and be able to look out for us. They're going to be our doctors one
they
day.
are, they
Yeah.
are.
So it's
They go
like really,
they gonna be doctors shooting, TikTok videos in the surgery while they doing surgery.
yes, that's the facts. Yeah.
Is Zoe Saldana? That's her that does the lioness, right? I
Yeah.
get mixed up with the other actress, yeah, but
Hmm.
mhm.
Yeah. This is definitely facts.
Mhm. But I do
Definitely.
have to hop off because Christian just told me he's off of work, so I gotta go pick up my eldest.
Yes. And I am definitely hopping off now, you guys. I appreciate everyone for joining. Thank you so much. And please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you press the notification though, because you won't get
Mhm.
notifications of us going live if you don't, if you just subscribe. So,
Yes.
yeah, we appreciate everybody for joining tonight. Thank you so much, Mo. Telling family, thank you for letting me borrow you again. All right, y'all have a good night. Peace be with you all. You're welcome.